Futurama is like a fine wine of a TV show. It just keeps getting better with age. Every rewatch seems to give fans more and more to love about the series. Some of these fans have taken their theories to darker places, however. They think they've found some of the true motivations behind how some characters become the people we know them as. Others think that they've figured out the secret history of the Futurama universe. We've combed through some of the most twisted of these fan theories to bring you the best. Here are the darkest Futurama theories that will make fans second guess everything. The end of the show is a what if. The episode Anthology of Interest I is one of the best episodes of the entire series. In it, we are introduced to Farnsworth's awesome what if machine. The rest of the episode plays out alternate timelines that end up being cool mini episodes. We get to see cool concepts like what if Bender is a giant robot monster. We also get to see an alternate version of events where Fry never got frozen. Some fans theorize that the what if machine got used again. They speculate the entire rest of this series was just a what if scenario. It makes a bit of sense considering the fact that the show did get a lot crazier after that episode. Judging from how the show ends, we can even theorize what question the machine is answering. The most logical question is that Fry asked, "What if Leela and I got together?" The machine then showed Fry all of the adventures the two would have to go through for someone like Leela to fall in love with him. This seems kind of ridiculous until you start to think about how the universe plays up Fry's importance. We find out several years later that Fry getting frozen was evidently no accident. He was chosen on purpose to come to the future so that he could save the universe. This is one of Futurama's greatest episodes, but it could also be seen as proof for it being a what if. The chances of Fry, the lowly delivery driver, being the single most important human ever are unlikely. It almost makes more sense that the machine would concoct a way for him to be so important for Leela. This moment and the dozens of other character moments could be just the machine working extra hard to make him good enough. Considering how beloved the finale is, most fans don't go for this one. Though, can we get a what if where Game of Thrones had a better final season? Please, Dr. Farnsworth? Fry corrupted Bender. We all know Bender is the most depraved guy in the universe. He loves to party, doesn't have a lot of empathy, and is dangerously close to being straight up evil at times. What if he wasn't always like that? One fan theory gives a pretty compelling case. When we first meet Bender in the pilot, he is very different. Fry actually saves him from ending his own life. This doesn't seem like something Bender would do at all. Shortly after, Bender experienced an electric shock in the Hall of Criminals. Some theorize that this shock rebooted Bender's systems. Then, when he looked around at the Hall of Criminals, he was reprogrammed as a criminal. This would fundamentally change the entire narrative of the show. Bender's not actually a bad robot after all. Fry is the bad influence. Every depraved act that he commits in the series is just because Fry led him into the Hall of Criminals. That being said, we're all happy Fry did so. This show just wouldn't be the same without Bender bending Rodriguez's crazy antics. The show is Fry's coma dream. Futurama is a pretty crazy show. It depicts a version of humanity's future that is very different from any other. Star Trek depicts a utopian society where humans have evolved past war and greed. Mad Max depicts a future where the world has pretty much been destroyed except for huge supplies of cool leather costumes. Futurama, though, depicts a world where consumerism and humanity's tendencies towards silliness have taken over. The only other property to come up with such an idea is the movie Idiocracy. What if the show's silliness is actually a clue, though? Some think that the entire series is nothing more than Fry's dream. Perhaps he never got out of that cryogenic stasis. The entire futuristic world is just based on his interests and musings on the world as a 90s delivery driver. This would make a lot of sense, considering he's the savior of the universe in Futurama's future. That's definitely something someone would dream about themselves. It also explains why the heads of famous people from the 20th century play so much of a role in the future. Why would anyone in the future want to hear from Richard Nixon? It almost makes more sense if it was all Fry's crazy fantasy. There are plenty of reasons to think this is ridiculous though. If Fry really were making up this reality, why would he imagine a love interest that takes him so long to get with? Wouldn't it be better if he came up with someone who just blindly loved him immediately? Or did Fry subconsciously want to meet someone who would push him into becoming the man he wanted to be? That would essentially make Leela and Bender the proverbial angel and devil of his subconscious. Leela is him telling himself he can be better. Bender is him telling himself to keep on partying. Tell me that doesn't change your next rewatch. The Simpsons paradox. Both Futurama and The Simpsons were created by animation guru Matt Groening, so it should be no surprise that there are lots of crossovers between the two famous shows. These crossovers are pretty awesome, but they're also really confusing. The characters of both shows are shown watching or interacting with merchandise from the other show. So The Simpsons is a show in the Futurama universe and vice versa. So if both of these shows are fictional in each other's universes, how can they cross over? Fans have been scratching their heads about this paradox for years. Most have just made peace with the idea that they exist in separate universes. Groening has a new show, Disenchantment, on Netflix, so there will probably be even more crossover drama to get confused about. Zapp Brannigan is messed up. Zapp Brannigan is pretty much the most incompetent guy in the galaxy. He's a spoof on William Shatner's Captain Kirk from Star Trek. This interpretation of the character exemplifies all of the worst aspects of Kirk. He's womanizing, self-centered, and is desperately trying to hide that gut of his. Captain Kirk balances some of his bad traits with the fact that he's the best Starfleet captain around. The same definitely can't be said for Zapp Brannigan. So how did Zapp get such a position in the Democratic Order of Planets? Some think that Zapp actually used to be a great military leader. Perhaps the years of space missions have changed Zapp into the cowardly idiot we know today. We find out that Zapp had a military command where he lost almost all of his soldiers. While this was meant to be a jab that shows his incompetence, it also could answer why he's so scared all the time. An accomplished commander would likely have seen a lot of danger in his life. Him being such a coward doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Though the other theory is that Zapp's personality is just an act, that he wants people to underestimate him so that he can defeat them in combat. Considering the fact that he regularly monologues about his own awesomeness, this seems unlikely. The biggest mystery in the series will probably never be answered though. What happened to Zapp's pants? The galaxy will never know. The worms change Fry. Parasites Lost is an episode of Futurama where Fry's brain gets taken over by worms. Unlike most Parasite stories, this actually works out really well for Fry. He becomes much more competent and nearly wins over Leela at last. Fry ultimately decided to be rid of the worms, but maybe they still had a lasting effect. One of the reasons why Futurama fans love this show so much is the character development of Fry. He goes from an incompetent delivery driver to a hero. Some think that his experience with the worms are what started him on this road. Maybe after seeing what he was capable of, he decided to become a better person. That, or maybe a worm got left over and it helped him out. If The Simpsons and Futurama are in fact in the same universe, then there may be a clue about a very mysterious character. We really don't know much about Hypnotoad. He just sort of shows up several times during the series without any real explanation about his origins, though The Simpsons may have introduced him in the past. In the episode Bart vs. Australia, Bart brings a frog to Australia with him. He sets the frog down and little Bart Jr. hops away. At the end of the episode, we see that Australia has been overtaken by frogs. Presumably, these are all Bart Jr.'s offspring. Some fans of both shows think that there could be more to this episode though. What if Bart Jr. eventually evolved into Hypnotoad? This would be the best Easter egg linking the two series. One thing that we can all agree on is that Hypnotoad is the single greatest fictional character of all time. Zoidberg a success? The gang at Planet Express is not exactly the most competent group of people ever. Most of them look like really great employees compared to the gang's horrible doctor, Zoidberg. Some fans think that he may not be as incompetent as you might think. Perhaps on his home world, he's actually a renowned doctor. Some even think that he may just be there to study humans from a xenobiological standpoint. On your next rewatch, just imagine that Zoidberg is there on an academic mission. It changes him from being extremely incompetent to only slightly incompetent. For Zoidberg, that is a big leap. The other theory is that human medical technology is so advanced that the bar for becoming a doctor is very low. Zoidberg doesn't really need to be all that good at his job when tech can basically cure everything. If Zoidberg can somehow get a medical license, obviously the process has become pretty easy. It's entirely possible that you show up, put your money in the machine, and out pops the degree. So it could basically be a college vending machine. If it has less student debt, hey, sign me up. Infinite Scruffies. One of the saddest, but also funniest running jokes in the series is how often the janitor Scruffy gets injured. While it is funny to see him constantly get hurt only to appear as good as new in the next episode, it is odd. One theory posted by Reddit user Heisenberg007 states that perhaps there is more to this than meets the eye. Maybe every time that Scruffy gets gravely injured, Farnsworth clones him. That would mean the gang has essentially an infinite supply of janitors at their disposal. This might explain his attitude as well. You wouldn't be all that happy if you knew that you were one of millions of clone janitors. The most likely answer is that he just has access to high-tech medicine that allows him to get back on his feet. Hopefully Farnsworth has him on a good insurance plan. That's a lot of medical bills. The USA took over the Earth. In Futurama, the Earth is presented as one united power. This follows suit with most sci-fi properties that assume that one day we'll all get over ourselves and become one super nation. The show doesn't really go into how this happened, but there are clues. Reddit user Wallafont thinks that the United States took over the world. There is actually a lot that points to this being true. For one, the entire world is modeled after the US. It seems to emulate our current culture of capitalism and consumerism. People also seem to still be obsessed with American figures and pop culture. So at some point in the Futuramaverse, the Americans had some kind of world domination plot. If that's true, we definitely know who was behind it. The Vice Presidential Action Rangers were made up of Al Gore, Stephen Hawking, Nichelle Nichols, Gary Gygax, and Deep Blue. If any organization could have arranged the takeover of Earth, it's them. Especially that Nichelle Nichols. You know Star Trek's Uhura has what it takes to be the queen of a planet. It's only a matter of time. So, there they are, the darkest Futurama fan theories. Have you heard of any more? Let us know in the comments section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more from The Binger.